Hi everyone, and welcome to my show Chat with Monika. I am super duper excited about today's chat with my guest Charlie Moorhouse, and today is going to be all about autism. Is it a gift? Is it a curse? What is it, autism? Let's wait.
Everybody wants to be happy. Everyone wants to be loved. All of us wish to be healthy. Everyone wants to enjoy life.
Art changes the world. It inspires people to stand up and speak up and support.
Hi everyone, once more. Welcome, Charlie. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
What a welcome. I'm so grateful that you are here because I think it's going to be a great chat. And I think it's nice to give people an idea of what it's like to actually be autistic and what it feels like. So let's go right to the beginning. And as I mentioned it before, actually, there is no better person to answer that question than the person that it is. So please tell us, explain, what is autism?
Well, that is a good question because I can't really stereotype it to exactly one trait because autism, as in the general definition, I would say is it's basically a rewiring of the brain pretty much. So it will affect how the brain pretty much processes information. That is the general definition I can put it, because there are different people out there whose autism affects them in different ways. It can make them introverted or extroverted pretty much. So because I've met people who are like shy, but then I've met people who are a bit more expressive pretty much. So the best way I can put it is there is the autistic spectrum. So you have low functioning people and high functioning people. Now, high functioning people are the ones where they just need a little bit more understanding, or like you may need to explain something to them a few times pretty much. Whereas low functioning people like myself, we are a bit more aware, let's put it that way. But I'm still like, for example, tonight, I may waffle too much, or like, eye contact that affects a lot of other people. It's just basically how you interpret a situation, or like your brain mainly just focuses on information pretty much. That's the best way, because I can't just say it affects everyone the same. It affects everyone differently.
So everyone is basically different. Well, we all are, yeah. But I, as I said it in the beginning, I believe that you guys have such skills as well that no other people have.
Funny you should say that, because I am currently in my final year of university, and I don't know if you know what a dissertation is. If you know, it's just basically an assessment. Your dissertation is your biggest final year assessment as a student that you could possibly have pretty much. So, but you can choose what topic that you want. So for the dissertation, my topic, I chose, funny how it works, I chose the merits of hiring autistic people and the value of them. So basically, because I have, in my personal experience, I have seen people who have developed really good skills if you let them. It could be computing, programming, map reading, organization, punctuality, all these skills that if you let them develop and encourage them, push them to develop pretty much, they can make a good name for themselves pretty much. So that's the whole point of my dissertation, really exploring on how each learning, not just autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, how all these different conditions can attribute different, give way to lots of skills that could be useful in certain employments pretty much. So funny you should say that.
Brilliant. Yes, absolutely. I see it that way too. And let's go to your journey. I would like to find out when was like when you were young, when you were a child, where
Mhm.
you remember actually thinking or realizing that you were a bit different to other kids.
Well, I can only say from memory, and I don't want to give anyone like the wrong opinion by just guessing whatever. I can only give off what I have said because obviously I was when I was younger, I was too young to remember it. But basically, I started off generally how any other normal other autistic person's journey begins because basically I went to nursery when I was young, 5 or 4, pretty much. But all the teachers noticed that I was acting a little bit differently to the other kids, pretty much. The other children, because I wasn't socializing with them like they were with each other, pretty much. And that's pretty much where it all began, pretty much. So from there, and again, I can only give off from what other people have told me in my memory, and I don't want to say the wrong facts, but from seeing how different I act from my parents and my the teachers in nursery, pretty much, from seeing how I acted differently to the other children. From there, they went, "Oh, okay, this is why is he doing this when?" Um, and so basically, cut to a few years later, because I went through multiple diagnoses. Is that a word? Diagnosis is plural. Anyway, but yeah, because I was evaluated by many, many, many psychiatrists over the years, pretty much, because they had to know how I reacted to certain facial expressions, social
Yeah.
situations, how I identify facial features, emotions, pretty much. So
And what
from
age was that when you were going through these?
my age,
Yeah,
uh,
roughly what
oh
or what
God,
age gap it was when you were going through these
it's
sessions with the sisters?
because I don't want to. Um, I think it was probably 8, but again, I can't go off memory because I was too young then to remember now. Wish I could, but basically, my journey of how I got diagnosed was interesting. Because basically, I will say this: a theme that's going to come up in this chat a lot is the support of my family. And my mum, God bless her, had because I'll say being a parent of an autistic child is not easy. So basically, she had to arrange all these psychiatrist assessments to evaluate me pretty much. So I don't want to, because me and her have talked a lot about my past, what I used to be like, and but I don't want to give the wrong, guess the wrong what my memory's going off. So basically, I will say my diagnosis took to be confirmed that I do have autism. I would say a few years because she said she's got boxes and boxes and boxes of paperwork, documents that have spanned a few years for me to get to my diagnosis. So
Yeah.
I will say probably maybe 7 or 8, pretty much,
Yeah.
when I was confirmed as diagnosis as autism, pretty much. That's how
And
it began.
yeah, and what happened then? How did your life develop then?
Basically, it wasn't. It's so basically after I got diagnosed, it was then a case of my family pretty much adapting to my needs because basically I would as an autism we like things. I wouldn't say it's the same as OCD, but one trait is we prefer certain clothes, certain food, I could detect, one, I didn't like vegetables, so my mum had to hide a pea in a giant stack of mashed potato, and I could find it in 2 seconds, pretty much. So it
Yeah.
was, so basically, just my family learning the traits and the challenges, and then from there it was a case of getting support. Now, we didn't have anyone, any charity or company come up to us, and because what you'd expect to happen is after you get diagnosed, you expect that psychiatrist to pass you over to support staff, but that didn't happen with us. We were just, okay, he's got autism, and that was it. So my mum had to then go and look for support herself. But once we got support, it was good. It was just basically my mum had to, because my parents split like when I was young as well. They're fine now, honestly. They got on fine, but you know, basically it was mainly my mum who had to go and get support for me, pretty much. Now, this is where it gets good. So we moved one day to our address of 7 years, Beauchamp Meadow, and then my mum, she was taking out the rubbish one day. This is the story she's told me. One day she was taking out the rubbish, and then because we were fairly new to the address, she met what would be her guardian angel, I'm going to call it, Helen. So, you know, basic general meeting a new person. So, hi, nice to meet you, whatever. And then Helen also has a son who's autistic called Jack, like me. He's more high functioning, pretty much. But because Helen had a bit more experience with Jack, and also she was a trustee to a charity called Forest Pulse. So she was a member. So she would, who deals with and takes not just autistic, but other children with special needs like me. So because she met Helen and she said, oh, my son Jack has autism, that just sparked the conversation. And Helen pretty much got my mum in contact with this necessary support, pretty much. But again, I don't want to go off guess because I don't want to give off the wrong information. But yeah, so the story goes pretty much like that.
And the support, how did you find the support?
Yeah, so from there, we got all the necessary support pretty much from Forest Pulse, and then from there, primary school pretty much. And that's where pretty much from then on, I would have support constantly through primary school, secondary school, and college pretty much. So yeah, literally every single new phase of education I would go into. So primary school, for example, they would go, okay, Charlie has autism. This is what he's like. This is what you need to do, or this is the level of support that he would require. And then they would cater that to me pretty much. Excuse me. So yeah.
So it was helpful.
Yeah, there was a lot to deal with, because basically one thing is, let's say, when I say sensory overloads, what that means is some autistic people like me, we do not like loud noises, for example, or like when an atmosphere or a situation is too high and intense, we tend to just withdraw, and it overloads us. So we, you know, anxiety, panic, pretty much. So just something as simple as going to a supermarket, for example, the tannoy, the people with trolleys, the talking, for someone like with autism, that is way too much. And there were times where I think I would just be crying in the supermarket, and people would think that my mum's like not a good parent, and she would have to explain to him, no, he's autistic, he can't handle the noise, sort of thing. So yeah, very challenging on my mum's half. So when I say she was my rock for like most of my life, she was like, because she had to deal with my anxiety, my my stress, my overloads, everything pretty much. So and she had to do every single like paperwork for my support pretty much was her. So that, yeah, but again, it affects people in different ways. But basically, you know, I would only play with certain toys, or if, let's say, I was playing with trains, for example, I would look away for 2 seconds and they would switch carriages, just see how I react. I would spot it instantly, and I'd be like, no, it has to be this way, sort of thing, how I play with toys. So, yeah, very challenging.
And what about other people? How did you feel other people, like, you know, your the people at school, you know, other members of the family? How did you kind of feel about them?
I can't necessarily remember how I felt, so I can't really answer that question. I think, though, I will say, when it comes to autism, I think when we have our sensory overload, we gravitate towards what we call our comfort figures. So, like, and one of the biggest examples would be your mums or your dads, whatever, or someone who you just go to immediately. So, for me, it was mainly my mum, pretty much. She was my comfort figure, who I'd always go to, pretty much. Or if not her, probably my nan, I would say. So I can't necessarily remember how I felt about other people, because I think I was too busy focused worrying about my anxiety.
Yeah,
but from secondary school is where I can remember most of how I started to feel now. It's just, I think before secondary school is where my memory's a bit vague. So as much as I want to give you a good answer as possible. Yeah, but okay.
Secondary school. So tell us in secondary school, yeah? How did you kind of like...
Secondary school was probably one of the biggest mental challenges of my life, I would say, because it was a special measures school. And what I mean by that is it was a school where a lot of kids had behavior problems. So like not listening to the teachers, noise, you know, not hard to discipline pretty much. So because of that, we had the school regulators, Ofsted, which is like they come and inspect the schools pretty much to see if the schools are doing their job, see if they need to implement any measures. So basically, because of that, my anxiety with school, because all I could think about, because I mentioned this to you earlier, it would take me at least 15 minutes just to walk through the front door of a classroom. Like I would have 2 teaching assistants behind me, like blocking my way, so I couldn't physically move back. So I'd have no choice but to walk forward. Of course, as an adult now, I look back at that and I'd be like, oh my God, what were you doing? But back then, though, because basically every single day going into school, all I could think about was how the children were going to act up and how the teacher would react. Because basically this is going to look stupid, but I was doing this, literally fingers in ears for most of my lessons. I think there was not one day where I didn't have my fingers in my ears, pretty much, because I just retreated into my mind, closed my eyes, because I didn't want to listen to the kids acting up, and then I didn't want to listen to the teachers acting up, you know, shouting, because like that would make me jump, and then anxiety, yeah, pretty much. So that was daily.
How did you learn to cope?
I didn't really. I can't really say I learned how to cope. Best way I can answer that question is I pretty much had the best support staff ever. So basically, at this school, we had a special building, because it wasn't just me, there was other children with other special disabilities, pretty much. Yeah. So this school had a building, or a special block of the school where people like me could go to for breaks. So if I didn't want to go to any of the play areas or the canteen, whatever, I could go to this building, for example, where all the support staff was, pretty much. And it was a thing where if I wasn't happy with the lesson and I was too anxious, I could take the work and take it to this building to work. So I wouldn't say it's a weird question. Yes, that was my coping mechanism. So it wasn't as I was learning how to cope, but basically that's where I could not worry about classroom anxieties. And this is where my wonderful, because I had a dedicated person who was with me from the start of secondary school to the end, called Gemma. She, and I will always say this now, I have major respect for parents and teaching staff or people who work with kids specifically, I'm going to say. Like, well, autism people in general, but I would say kids though, because when I look back at some of my panics when I was literally, so she was so patient with me. She helped me. She supported me through all my anxiety, all my panic pretty much, and was there and she basically got to know me pretty much. It's funny, I went a while back, I think when I was in college, a bit older, I went back and visited that same school, and she was on shift, and we basically had a catch up, and she was just so blown away about how much I'd grown up. But it was because mainly, my mum and her who got me through secondary school, pretty much.
So support is very important, isn't it?
Exactly, because I did some research and I was surprised that a lot of families don't get support. They're either not approached or they have to learn it for themselves, and that's really hard to learn, because as a parent you just want someone to come up to you and be like, look, we know this is hard and we understand, but this is how, what is going to happen, and this is what should happen, and this is what you can do pretty much. So it's a shame that knowing that a lot of families don't get the support they need for their child pretty much.
I think support is important for everyone that has a problem, especially for you guys. But I mean, depression, stress, anxiety, any of these are just not great to deal with by ourselves. So support really helps. And I like the word you used with Gemma, and that's patient.
It takes a lot of patience and a lot of hard work, because I've seen, when I was in that building at school, I've seen, full on, not rows, but what, children, like kids, just, their anxiety, their disability, their brain, they just can't handle the stress of the situation, and I've seen, the teaching assistants, the support staff, and how they interact, it's a lot, you just got to know that it's nothing personal. It's just in the moment that person, they're just having a really bad day, their anxiety, their sensory overloads. So whatever they say, you just can't take it personally. You just got to probably let them get it out of their system, and then just wait for them to calm down before you can try and, because all you want to do is help. That's the end of the day. They want to help, but sometimes though they won't let you help them, if that makes sense. So
and you finished the secondary school, you managed, it was over. And what happened then? What was next?
Right, so I left secondary school, and so this is where I went into college next, and I studied public services at college for 3 years. Now, college is where I started to develop my own pretty much, because secondary school, all I could think about was the anxieties, and I still carried that on to college, but this is where I started to develop my own self pretty much. So what happened was, they focused a lot more on of course I still got support. College had its, just like secondary school, we had our own support staff and our dedicated room that I could go into, but basically they've started to focus on more independent work. And this is where I got probably what would be the biggest thing for me that I still carry today, my first taste of proper fitness. Because I remember my induction day at college, and they said, I can't remember what thing it was, but it was fitness focused, and basically after the session, I was absolutely I was like, at first I went going, I was like, oh yeah, I can do this, I'm fit enough, and then like at the end I was like, no. So, but so that clicked in my head. Okay, I want to work on my fitness for the sake of fitness. This was before I realized how good it was for my mental health. But as well as fitness, we did a lot of discipline, because as a public service course, police, fire, ambulance, army, we focused a lot on discipline. And one of the things that we did was drills. So like you see with like, I think the Queen's Royal Guards or something, like the marching, sort of thing. We did a lot of that. So college was good for me in discipline and independent, in getting me to study on my own pretty much. And that happened for 3 years. And one of the biggest challenges that we had to do was our Duke of Edinburgh expedition, which was basically a trek, a multi-day trek through the Forest of Dean. We had to meet our tutors at the checkpoints, and then we had to set up our own tents. We had to navigate a map, communicate as a team. So that was a big challenge for me, pretty much. Challenge. Yeah, like being alone, away from home, no family, whatever, just me and my teammates, pretty much. So, and like learning to operate a tent, and yeah, that was so. Yeah, but they were.
What did you learn? What did you learn from that experience?
From Duke of Edinburgh, how to trust. I'd say how to trust people. I would say no. Scratch that. Yeah, that's it. What I learned was how satisfying it was to get over a challenge. That's what Duke of Edinburgh taught me, and it's something I'll always say now. The harder the challenge you are facing, the more satisfying you'll feel when you finish it, because you don't feel like you've accomplished something if you do something easy, but if you get to the end of something really, really, really hard, sure, there were times where you were down and you were like, oh my God, this is just nuts, I can't do this. But you get to the end, you feel like you've climbed a mountain or something. So Duke of Edinburgh was my first taste of being proud of accomplishing something that was really challenging for me. So
brilliant.
Yeah,
that's absolutely brilliant and very nicely said, because it's exactly like that. And I think for everyone, we don't like challenges in general. They're like pushing us out of our comfort zone. And it's for every human being, it's just a challenge, to do that, to decide, go ahead and do it and complete it. So I like how you actually described it and said it, like straightforward. It's rewarding when you achieve it, when you really do it and you finish it. It's just so rewarding. So that's brilliant.
Yeah, because basically before college, most of everything I was doing was with support, through family, through teaching support. Whereas college, though, it was more independent focused. So which is why I started to develop myself. So that I think, of course, no one likes doing something hard. I know a lot of people can easily look at something challenging and be like, oh no, I don't want to do that. That looks too difficult. But I always flip it and be like, well, it's going to be hard, but look back on it and you'll be really proud of accomplishing it, though.
Nice.
So I always encourage people to because like the amount of times in martial arts classes, I've seen people go like, oh, this is nuts, this is mad, I can't, do this. And I'm like, yeah, but you're going to feel good when you do it. So, okay, so college. That was college. College helped me with click it with fitness and develop myself and become more independent. However, I was still living at home. So I was still commuting to and from Gloucester and Lydney, my home, pretty much. and even then that was funny in itself, because I had to do a whole bunch of travel training. I then had to learn how to use the bus, use the train, something which I'd never learned to do by myself. Because basically another thing I struggled with was getting on a bus when we did school trips, because same thing again, being on a bus with kids with behavioural problems, I couldn't handle it. Whereas now I'm fine with it, but back then I just couldn't deal with it. And that's when I learned how nice it was when I discovered music that's a whole different thing altogether. But basically music on a bus was just so nice for me. So that was another hurdle for me to overcome. And I can tell you countless times how many times we went on a school trip and I just couldn't stand, like, overnight. It was just not nice. So, but yeah. That's go on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, that was just another little. See, this is another autism. I interrupt people. That's just,
That's okay.
But yeah, that was another challenge for me. But that's when I discovered music for the first time and how it allowed me to take my mind out of, like, the present situation. And now I've got a whole taste of music, which helps me give me little mini pick-me-ups, which is really nice. But yeah, so that was college. So I was still traveling to and from the campus and home. Now, next to the big one, university after college, living by myself, cooking for myself, being independent.
Wow. How did you manage? How do you manage?
Well, looking back 4 years now, quite well. but basically, yeah, like, if you were to go back now, because we said this in our pre-chat, but I'll say it again for the viewers. But basically, if you were to go back in time, like 7, 8+ years, whatever, and tell me and my family, Chai's going to move to Cheltenham, he's going to live by himself, cook by himself, do his own laundry, he's going to do martial arts, he's going to do salsa classes and ask strangers to dance with him, we would have, like, laughed in your face pretty much. You'd be like, no, that is a different person. That's not Charlie. Like, I still remember moving day, because my mum drove me to the Pittville Student Village, which was the student halls, residence, the campus. That would be my accommodation. Of course, with my dad as well, because they were helping me move my stuff. And basically, my mum was, God bless her, she was like, is he going to be okay? Is he going to be like, is he going to be able to make friends by himself? Like, oh my God, I still remember that day. And that was 4 years ago. Yeah, like, God bless, but yeah, my mum, though, she's such an important figure in my life, though. I can't stress that enough. God bless her. So yeah, moved my stuff, and then the next day, my nan brought some new stuff up for me for my room, and then there was a knock on my door. I answered it, and oh, hi, we are your flatmates, pretty much. Oh, we have a nice time together. And I could feel my mum and my nan behind me being like, oh my God, he's got nice friends, sort of thing. Because that was one of my main worries, because basically with halls, I didn't know who I was moving in with, because you get your own bedroom, which is fine, but you share the kitchen and all the other stuff pretty much. So moving in with strangers, not knowing who was going to be on the same floor as me, because I could have ended up with anyone. I could have ended up with a whole bunch of boys, loud party people, just, oh my God, anyone. But instead, I got the nicest, like, most just understanding people, caring, kind people I could ever ask for to live with. If it was any other group, I think I would have struggled pretty badly. But because of them, and I still am in touch with some of them today, but yeah, they is what made my first year at uni, pretty much. So, and I think if I could go back in time and replay that year, yeah, definitely, because that's when I started to come out of my shell a little bit more, learning to socialize, you know, how I value socializing now, pretty much, you know, like a quick chat in the kitchen, or, you know, starting to go out, you know. So yeah, that was probably one of the best years of my life for me personally, and just helping me, like, you know, socialize and just become a bit more independent, pretty much.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And where are you now, Charlie? How do
So
you
I am 4 years later, final year at university. I am now coming to the end, and I now have, well, if it wasn't for COVID, I signed up for martial arts, which is where I met Matt and everyone else, and, you know, brilliant, because basically I moved out of halls, and I was thinking, I don't want a gym, I want something else. So out of pure curiosity, I typed in judos, whatever, and that's when I signed up for martial arts. Pretty much came across the academy, had my induction, and that was it, really. Yeah, and I think my circle of friends just expanded and expanded and expanded. And then one night, my mum gets in contact with me, and she goes, "Oh, do you know they do salsa at one of the clubs in Cheltenham?" I go, "No. Do you want to try it?" "Okay, fine." And that's and that's how that went, pretty much. I then got into salsa, and then learning how to dance, and then how had to ask people to dance with me. It was, you know, and yeah, that, and now, well, if I can now dance, kind of, but yeah, had a
Nice.
nice run there, and then, you know, I really enjoyed it. So I will say, with martial arts and salsa, of course, I enjoy learning to dance and doing, you know, fitness, you know, but, you know, socializing, no, absolutely one of the most important things for me, pretty much. So, yeah, I had a nice
Yeah.
few years with everyone, and now I'm in my final year of university, getting on with my assessments, and yeah, and now I plan on doing more about autism now, because now I am aware of it, and what it can do. And yeah, once I finish university, I'll be off into the big wide world to do what I want, pretty much. So that brings us to the present.
Lovely, lovely. Listen, I want to ask you, like, with the journey that you've been on, what skills have you developed that you actually realize that you have and you can use them as much as possible, you know, on your life journey?
Ooh, that is a good question. Number one, learning to be positive, I would say. Definitely. And I would say I would probably class this as a skill, but managing my head, I would say, and how to use my brain. That's probably, because everything else is more like, you know, running for mental health, or like just socializing, pretty much. But I would say, skill wise, just mainly being positive, I would say now, and just putting, and now especially, like, putting people before me, I would say. Well,
Yeah.
not before, but just, you know, checking up on people, and caring
Mhm.
about people. I'd say those are the main ones.
Perfect. Right. And along the way, like, you know, up until now, what was the biggest lesson that you learned?
Ooh, I would say just appreciating myself a little bit more. I would say, because in secondary school, when I was younger, I wasn't really thinking about myself. I was just thinking about how I wanted these things. Oh, I want these trains in this order, these cars in this order, or, you know, oh, I want this particular clothes. You know, but now, though, the biggest lesson, I think, is appreciating myself and others, I would say. But I'm
Mhm.
still learning to appreciate myself a little bit more, because beforehand I was putting others first, but now I'm starting to reel it back a little bit, and yeah, appreciating others and myself, I would say.
Brilliant. Perfect. Absolutely brilliant. So the journey has been really up and down, hasn't
It
it?
has, yeah.
But you made it up to here and you've got some plans for the future.
Yes.
So I want to ask you before we kind of finish for two things. One is, what would you say, what advice would you give to people that sort of have any autism people around them, you know, and they don't kind of understand it? Yeah, what would you say to them?
Ooh, I would say let the person with autism be who they want to be, because I've seen it before where I think a lot of people will try and push people in a direction they don't want to be. So I think with autism, they may come across different, but they are fascinating though. Like, I've had discussions before with other autistic people, and like, you know, they're interested in bugs or like computers, or like they can look at two cars and they know exactly every single detail, whatever. So, you know, don't be afraid to ask them get to know them, what they like, and from there you can, because I think one of the best things about autism is seeing an autistic person talk about something that they like, you know, because I could go on and on about the different shows, video games, music that I like, pretty much, you know. So I would say, because like I said earlier with the skills and my dissertation, let them figure out the area they want to grow in. I would say that's another one. Obviously, like, you know, give them some guidance, whatever, you know, so they can go in the right direction. But I would say let them be who they want to be, and just get into a nice conversation with them, pretty much. That's what I would say. And then from there, if you can see that there's a certain area that they can grow in, then just let them be, I would say, and just provide the right support, I would say.
Nice, brilliant. And of course, what would you advise to those that are still fighting with their autism? You know, it's clear they've got it, you know, they are a bit different. What would you advise to them?
I would say you've got so much potential. You've got absolute, like, you never, I would say, and it's not it, and to bring it back to what you said right at the start, it is not a curse. It is not, it is a gift. It is part of you. And that's the important thing. It's not a disease, it's not an illness, it is part of you, and it's something. And unique doesn't mean bad. Unique, being different isn't a bad thing. Unique, it just means that you have a mind and potential skills that could, you know, you could be the best programmer or the best engineer or the best driver or something, you know, or the best map reader, you know. You could be working for a company and like you could be the go-to person, you know, for like engineering advice or something, you know. So if you're and also don't be shy about asking for help, I would say. That's gonna be a difficult one, because I know a lot of autistic people, you know, they may not understand the support, but basically, and also if you like this certain music or this certain TV show, there's nothing wrong with that. You are allowed to like whatever you like. If you like running, go running. If you want like Disney songs, then there's nothing wrong with that. If you like, you know, TV dramas or like books, there's nothing wrong with that, you know. That's what I would say. So your autism is a part of you and it's a gift, not a curse. So
Beautiful, really nicely said. I think that's the best and we
yeah.
can ever have. So Charlie, is there anything else you would like to add for the viewers to be aware of?
I don't know. I would say, actually, yeah. Now that I think about it, life I describe as a series of moments that you treasure with the ones that you value. No, making memories with the ones that you. Yeah, life is about making memories with the ones that you treasure the most. Because I'm not going to get too rambly, but what COVID taught me, because I was doing martial arts and salsa and everything before COVID, but then when we got into lockdown, that's when I really appreciated socializing. And it's the little things as well. Sometimes the little moments are the most important. Thanking the bus driver or talking to the cashier, pretty much, you know? Because what I will always say, a moment may not last forever, but memories do. So, because right now, I am not thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner later or like what I've got tomorrow. If you come across a moment, like you are sitting in your, hugging your mum, or like you're going for a walk with a friend, treasure that moment, because when it's gone, you've just got a memory for it. And memories last a lifetime, but you have to embrace that moment. Don't think about tomorrow, next week. Sure, it's good to plan your future, but when it comes to those very little moments, just embrace it, because when it's gone, you just have a moment, a memory of it. So that's how
That's so beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is just, there is no more to say to that, because the way
Yeah,
you said it, it's just so powerful for
yeah.
everyone, for every
hmm
human being.
hmm
So
Especially,
thank you for
especially,
sharing.
especially with this lockdown, I think a lot of people, like now, so appreciate the walks you have with your friends, or like, you know, the phone call you have with your family. That's what I would say, because you never know how you truly appreciate something until you take a break from it. Because I didn't realize how much I appreciated all my activities and socializing wise until we had that COVID break from it. And now I really appreciate the value of socializing, pretty much.
Yes, 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 yes. Perfect, brilliant. Charlie, thank you for sharing
Yeah.
everything. Thank you for being part of my show. It was such a pleasure having you here.
So, I wish I could have said more, honestly. I wish I could have told you more, but I can only go off memory. But yeah, that's the general sense of what autism is, pretty much, and how it affects people.
I think we shared exactly what we were meant to share. So it's out there, it's for people to get
Mhm.
knowledge about it, understand it a bit more and take from it what they need to take from it. So I think it's
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. Thank you, thank you.
my
So
pleasure.
thank you so much, everyone, for watching. If you have any questions, obviously pop them in the comment, and remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel and support what I am doing, sharing true stories from these beautiful souls. Okay. Thank you again once more. Have a beautiful evening and take care for now. I'll see you next week with my next guest. Thank you, Charlie, once more.
My pleasure. You're very welcome.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.